During the game's lifespan, Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak fulfilled a wish this beloved community had for almost 2 decades. The release of Espinas was received with an overwhelmingly positive response, especially from veterans. That addition marked a very significant shift in the franchise's history and symbolizes a huge potential for the future titles. But what is so special about this particular monster? After all, it is not even an elder dragon, nor it does have any particular role in Sunbreak's narrative. So what can make this flying wyvern so important? For people that never truly understood the seemingly exaggerated reaction to its inclusion, Espinas was one of the most iconic flagships of a little game named Monster Hunter Frontier, an MMORPG set in a Monster Hunter universe. Many players, most often newcomers to the series, never heard of this rather obscure title, and that is because it sadly never came to the West, remaining exclusive to Japan and other Asian-based countries for 12 long years, only to be shut down in December 2019, never expanding itself to the global market. While the vast majority of the Western audience never had the chance to try this exotic spin-off with their own hands, its existence didn't go unnoticed. Despite being based on Monster Hunter DOS's engine, Frontier went above and beyond in revamping and enhancing the old gen formula, introducing very early many quality of life changes that would later be seen in World and Rise, creating wild features and mechanics, introducing 3 exclusive weapons, having by far the largest roster with a catalog of 181 monsters, and possessing the most extreme and ridiculously difficult fights the franchise has ever seen.
See what happens.
Is there like a hole behind this? What? I see. I'm dead.
I found the
Sorry. You found. You found. Did you find the monster?
God, I found the emergency.
I think the emergency is me.
At the end of its life, this MMO was notorious for its ultra over-the-top action and insane challenge, most of which came from its exclusive roster, with Espinas being one of them. Fans jubilated with this completely unexpected addition in Sunbreak because it essentially opened the floodgates to the potential appearance of the 78 exclusive monsters from Frontier that an overwhelmingly portion of the community never got the chance to experience. Not only that, most of them were either extremely unique in anatomy, behavior, or its combat mechanics. For example, Espinas is not just another flying wyvern like many others. Its mechanics and even the way we hunters engage with it is extremely unique. Its quests begin almost always with it sleeping, and it will remain asleep even if you or your teammates attack it. Its hide is so thick and durable that player strikes will casually bounce or barely hurt it. This species is so resilient that they feel comfortable enough to rest wide in the open regardless of the dangers around them. It requires a surprising high amount of damage or a very big hit to wake them up, and even then they will initially fight you in a sloppy manner, acting the same way as a person being woken up mid-sleep, which, to be fair, that's exactly what's happening in this situation, slowly becoming more and more active as the hunt continues. Another interesting aspect about its armor is that, once enraged, its hide will soften, making it easier to penetrate. This counterbalance creates a rather unique dynamic combat pacing that differs greatly from most non-Elder Dragon monsters we usually see in mainline titles. And on top of that, their fireballs can deal fire, poison, and paralysis at the same time, being the only one able to inflict 3 damage types with a single strike. Now, keep in mind that Sunbreak did change some aspects of Espinas' fight to adjust it more to Rise's pacing, but its core hunt identity, namely the sleeping, hide softening, and 3 damage type, still remain in its 5th generation reimagining. that fact is exactly what excites Monster Hunter veterans so much. Frontier left behind not just cool, extravagant features never seen in the series, but also weapons and monsters. And while we thought all that content was lost permanently, Sunbreak changed that forever and proved that, at the very least, spin-off monsters can be brought into mainline games. So, with that in mind, what can we expect in Wilds when it comes to this? Just to clarify, we don't know if this will be a trend going forward or if it will even ever happen again. But for the sake of argument, let's assume Frontier monsters will indeed appear in the 6th generation. Which monsters would benefit the game the most? Which ones would fit Wilds the best? As of right now, that is an extremely hard question to answer, since we basically know next to nothing about it. All we have is a 90-second trailer with zero combat or anything of substance, let's be honest, so to reach an actual conclusion we would need to make a lot of assumptions here. Being a quote-unquote numbered entry, Wilds, just like World, will most likely be a lot more grounded in comparison to Rise, and thus have a much slower combat pacing and be considerably less flashy, for lack of a better term. That alone would check out a massive portion of Frontier's roster since the game is basically Sunbreak turned up to 11. But there are some monsters that would still fit a more down-to-earth title if adjustments were made. Even 5th gen Espinas itself would still do just fine in Wilds in my opinion. But that would be cheating a little bit, since it was just added in the latest game, so we will exclude it from this list. After careful consideration, I picked 8 base Frontier monsters that I personally believe would be the best candidates for a transition to the mainline series. Every single one of these possess a very unique mechanic which would in turn not only avoid overlaps with other monsters, so there would be zero conflict on that front, but would also add a lot more diversity to the hunts themselves by providing significantly more exotic, engaging and overall fun combat experiences. But to avoid making the video unnecessarily long, I will cut it down to only 3 of them. One for each rank players have to go through. Starting with low rank, we have Paria Puria, the Swallowing Wyvern. This rather friendly looking amphibious flying wyvern is an extremely gluttonous predator. Its entire shtick is about food and eating. In fact, eating is so predominant in its identity that it's also part of its unique mechanic. On the surface, this monster behaves in a very similar manner to a Tigrex, but outside of that, this particular monster has a very unique behavior. Paria is constantly eating, and they will eat everything. Animals, corpses, hunters, dropped items, even the soil itself. Due to these continuous consumption, they will eventually fill themselves so much to the point of picking it all out, even using it as a projectile weapon against players, which, fun fact, some of those can be gathered as an extra reward at the end of the hunt. Its overly gluttonous nature can be used at our advantage as well. At the beginning of the quest, the item box has several types of meat of different colors. Paria, unsurprisingly, constantly drools and its color changes over time. Players can then feed it meat that matches the color of Paria's saliva, which, in case you do it successfully enough times, Puria will get completely full and will stop attacking, slowly walking around while it's digesting, providing hunters with a massive opening to deal damage. But if the monster is flinched during this state, it will become enraged and begin aggressively vomiting at the player. If they are fed with the wrong colored meat though, they will act violently, smashing the ground causing earthquakes almost as it was having a fit. Feeding it not only makes the hunt significantly easier, it is also the only way to get some rare carves from its regurgitated remains necessary to upgrade its water-based weaponry. Next one, standing midway through high rank, we have Akura Vashimu, the Tail Crystal Scorpion. Being a desert carapacian, which is also the only scorpion-themed monster in the entire series by the way, Akura is an interesting choice mostly due to its exclusive blight, crystallization. If players get hit by Akura's tail beam, they become afflicted with this status and get covered in crystals. While crystallized, hunters immediately lose their entire stamina bar, unable to move or attack while the crystals continuously grow. After a short period of time, said crystals explode, dealing huge amounts of damage. Though, fortunately, it can be easily removed by rolling multiple times, being hit by other players, or using sonic bombs. And finally, for the endgame, we have the almighty Odibaturasu, the Cannon Rock Wyvern. This flying wyvern, yes, flying wyvern of abnormal size, is in the same power category as Eucanlos and the Cantor. Despite being slow, Odi is insanely powerful, mostly due to its huge size as well as its massive organic cannon located on its back. With it, it is capable of storing enormous amounts of sand, which are then expelled at high velocity, essentially turning it into a giant living mortar. Because of being so ginormous, most physical attacks from this beast cause sand waves that can damage the hunter, making this hunt highly focused on positioning and timing, which, even though it is not as unique as the other two examples, its combat dynamic is different enough to deliver a fresh hunting experience. Besides, this is the closest thing to a turtle that we have so far. Okay, second closest. Of course that, at the very least, some tweaks would have to be made to make them fit perfectly with Wilds' vision. But as they were in Frontier, I say they were already aligned enough with the monsters design we see in mainline and portable games, especially in comparison to a large portion of Frontier's roster. They are anatomically and mechanically unique without being over the top, they offer thematic behavior that enhances their hunting experience, and their difficulty comes from a multitude of sources rather than being just the bullet sponges that hits really hard. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with these choices? Which monsters would you pick? If you would like to see a similar video based on another Monster Hunter spin-off, let me know in the comments below. A huge thank you to my Patreon supporters for supporting the channel and the content I create. If you want to join the ranks, you can do so for only $1 a month, the link will be in the description. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and opinions down below, join our Discord server, engage with the community, and I hope to see you all next time.